Howdy guys, what I've got for you is another carbine kit. This one is a full carbine set from KWA, and it's not like the last carbine kit that we did. It's a little bit more complex to get into the ride system, so you can't operate the pistol by itself. Your internals need to be put in. I'm getting ahead of myself. We'll explain all that as we go. First, we'll do a little bit of unboxing of what's required for this carbine kit. So the first one is going to be your ATP-GT, which is KWA's version of the Glock. Now, this does not run on Glock mags, any existing Glock mags. What you're going to need is a specific ATP-GT mag, and this does come with a couple of extra bits and pieces, so I'll run into this in a sec. Pardon me. So, first, we'll go butt to tip on this one. Like I said, your magazine is a dedicated KWA mag. One thing that KWA do that I really quite like is they have this hold system. So where you've got the spring and follower, if you push that down, that holds the spring and follower in place so that you can fill from the top. And then as soon as you're ready, you just press it in, and then you get instant tension on that. So this is cut for an RMR, for a mounting plate and a red dot. So it means that you don't have to get anything specific in terms of a load, a mounting system for it. But functionally, it's pretty much exactly the same as any of the WE or TM Glocks that you'll have seen before. No external safety. You've got trigger safety that exists there. This can be moved from one side to the other, though. So if you have any requirements for an ambidextrous mag release, or sorry, if you have any requirements for a mag release that you want to operate from the right side of the frame with your left hand, you can just swap those around. You've got an ambidextrous slide release like on the Gen 5s, and as I said, the only difference between this and the MOA version of the Gen 5 Glock is that the takedown is ever so slightly different. So, like usual, what you have to do is pull your slide into battery, but instead of pulling down on those two tabs, you just push this in, and then it slides down into that position, and then the whole thing comes apart like that. Okay. So we will come to that. I know I don't normally do disassemblies to stage one, but there is a reason for this, and we'll go into it in just a second. What you also get in here is, I don't know if you can see that through the plastic, but I'm not going to take it out because it's not interesting enough to take out, but it's a red dot mounting plate for if you want a slightly bigger red dot on there, and then you've got tension tools and some screws. Again, might be the kind of thing that you're interested in, might not. So again, usually on a Glock system, you'll have a pin at the heel of the pistol here that you just punch out and the rest of it comes out. There's a completely different system on this one. You have to take the entire stage one out, and once that's out, the whole of the internals just slides forward and then lifts out. Again, I'm not going to go into it here because this is not supposed to be about disassembling the KWA pistol, but the reason that I've showed you that to that level is because for what comes next, you will need to start the disassembly process, and that's for the carbine ride kit. So inside this, really nicely packaged, there is your carbine kit. Looks ever so slightly different to the last carbine kit that we did, but doesn't differ in too many ways. This one doesn't have a dedicated tracer like the USW does, but this one does have a threaded in a barrel, so you can put an extender, you can put an adapter in there, then you can have a barrel extension, or you can have a suppressor or a tracer onto it the same way as you would any other pistol. That's on folder tension, and what you've got to do with this one is you have to take all the internals out of this and transport them into this. Easier than it sounds, but it's still quite a daunting process. If you ever want any help doing it, we're more than happy to do it in the shop, or more specifically, our tech is more than happy to do it because it's not too far out of his wheelhouse. Let me just get this focused for you for just a second. There we go. The big differences on this one are going to be you've got a much more chunky stock on this one. So this one's similar to, it's not a million miles away from the Cape Moss style stock that you get on the MCX and the MPX. You've also got QD mounts on either side here. Not to mention, your mag, but you also have a mag spare here. So you've got ambidextrous removal for that mag, and as soon as you want that one, it just goes straight into the carbine kit like that. And what that all looks like when you get it into position, if I might take a moment, is this. I think it's a really nice carbine kit. A lot of thought's gone into this. It's very similar to the Glock style front end carbine kits, where essentially it just gives you a hand rest. You've got a small amount of Picatinny on the front, hidden thread on here, so you can add things. Small amount of Picatinny on the back, and then your stock is just on a tension release, and it can be used, I guess, if you want to, as a pistol like that, because that's where your left side and your right side quick detachment, your QD points are. But I suppose if you're running a carbine kit, then you're not going to run it as a pistol, because that's what you've got a carbine kit for. But listen, just a thought. Anyway, like I said, for the whole carbine kit, you're going to need to purchase the specific KWA ATP-GT pistol, which is this part. You need to put the lower inside the carbine kit, and you're probably going to need to purchase other mags, because it doesn't function with Glock mags at all. So you need a specific dedicated ATP mag for that. Anyway, if you've got any more questions about that, just come and let us answer them for you.